Hello, my name is Stephen Beal, and I am presenting part one on a series of how to buy a business regardless of the economy. Part one will get into the introduction of the concept of buying a business. My name is Stephen Beal, and I'm the principal and owner at Beal Business Brokers and Advisors, where we help people buy, sell, value, and improve their business. Let me start off with a general question. Why own a business versus being an employee? I know many people have a dream of owning their own business, and they're thinking of being their own boss or have job security or control their own hours. Now, I always say that one with a laugh because most business owners that I know work a lot more than the typical 40-hour work week. So yes, as an owner, you have control over your hours, but it's not necessarily fewer hours. It's just you control them better. You can also build equity in a business. So you're not just working for a paycheck and potentially a pension. You're building something that you can either sell or pass on to your children. So there's a lot of pride of ownership as you're looking to own a business. But having said that, these are all good reasons to owning your own business. So what about why buy a business rather than start? So if you think of it that way, it's a question of, sure, I might have sold you on you should own your own business, but what about why does it make sense to buy rather than start a business? If you think about buying a business compared to starting one, it typically can be cheaper, faster, and safer than trying to start one from scratch. Statistics show us that your average business barely breaks even if they're lucky in the first year of operation. So for startups, they may, if they're lucky, might break even in year 2 or possibly even year 3. So for the first year or two, you're losing money if you start a business. Whereas if you buy a business, if you buy a well-established, profitable business, you're making money from day one. So that's a good solid reason to buy a business rather than to start one. Existing businesses have established market presence. I like to think of it this way. If you're looking to start a business and you see that you already have 10 competitors out there, if you start a business, you're now number 11 and you got to fight the other guys just to get yourself noticed. Where if you buy one of the 10, you're automatically in the market. Typically, you're going to have trained staff and established processes that come with an existing business rather than trying to start one and invent this all yourself. As I just mentioned about competition, again, if you're the 11th guy in, you're adding to competition. If you just buy one of the 10, you're not adding to the competition. Also, there's an opportunity for seller training. So an owner who's going to sell you his business will typically provide a certain amount of training. Sometimes that'll be included in the price. Sometimes it'll be an additional fee on top of that. But the seller will train you in how to run that business. It's also a possibility that the seller might finance you in buying that business. They're not going to finance 100%, but they may finance the gap between what you have, what the bank may lend, and what you need to buy the business. And finally, bank financing is possible with an existing business where they can see a proven track record of success. If you're looking to start a business, you should be able to borrow money from a bank, but it's going to be based on your own personal collateral and credit history. So they'll look to you and they'll need you to provide a personal guarantee if you're going to borrow to start a business. Whereas if you borrow to buy a business, the business has assets that the bank will look at as part of the financing package. Having said all that, obviously buying a business is risky, but the alternatives are risky as well. Staying as an employee can be risky. You can always get fired or laid off. The company can go out of business. We've just been through a period, and we're still in a period of this pandemic and COVID-19, and people are worried about their jobs. All of these things can happen if you're an employee. So if you're running your own business, at least you have some control over where you're going. Another reason to buy a business. We're just entering the baby boomers. People born in the 50s and early 60s are now turning 60 and 65. And so these people will be looking to sell. So Deloitte & Touche did a survey and discovered that over the next 5 to 10 years, over half the businesses will change hands. And within the next 15, 75% will change hands. So there will be a lot of businesses available for sale over the next little while. Now, I should touch a bit on our current situation with COVID-19. And people are now talking about a K-shaped recovery, and what they mean by that is good, solid businesses are going to do well, and then some businesses are going to suffer. And we see this, or we saw it in the last recession in 2008, that solid businesses with good, solid profits continued to sell well, even though there's a lot of distress back in 2008, and we see it now in the past 12 months. Solid businesses continue to sell well at good prices. The non-essential businesses that the government has deemed non-essential in the current crisis that were forced to shut down were harder, if not impossible, to sell, or they sold for lower multiples. People would buy a distressed business, but they would pay bottom dollar. For some of these non-essential businesses, you have a great opportunity right now to look at them as a buyer, to potentially buy something, say a restaurant, at a discount price. I mean, it's never easy to buy a small business. What you need to do is to know what you are looking for as a buyer and be ready when that opportunity arises. So again, from your point of view as a buyer, we see two clear trends. So there's this flight to quality, as I'll refer to it, where you buy a good business at a good price and understand, how did they do in the last recession? That may tell you, give clues as to how they're going to come through the current economic turmoil. Or if you know what you're doing and you're familiar with the industry, you may be able to buy some distressed businesses at a discount price. But again, I would caution you that approach only makes sense if you're familiar with the industry and you can do a turnaround quickly. So let's move on to what buyers need if you're looking to buy a business. First of all, you need money. Don't believe the people who tell you that you can buy a business with no money down. You're going to need some money. You're going to need accountants. You're going to need lawyers. You're going to need professionals to advise you. You're going to need money for the down payment. The bank will want to see evidence that you've got the personal net worth to afford the business. So you will need money in some fashion. You'll need skills as well. In order to run the business, you need to have business sense. You need to have people management skills, sales skills, a number of different skills, obviously depending on the type of business you buy. You also need to know what you're looking for. What kind of business do you want? And we'll touch on some of the questions you should start asking yourself. And finally, you should talk about, you need to understand what the process is for buying a business. So in terms of money, the down payment requires liquid, or it's also referred to as unencumbered cash. It could be anywhere from 25 to 50%. So if you're looking to buy a business for $1 million, you probably will need somewhere between $250,000 to $500,000 in cash, or unencumbered cash. You'll need a good personal credit rating in order to borrow the rest. So this is just sort of the basic elements of what you'll need in order to buy a business. The other aspect is skills. So business or management experience is vital if you're looking to buy and run a business. So take a look at your skill set. What are your strengths? What are you good at? Are you good at sales? Are you good at operations, supervision? Are you an introvert or extrovert? Do you like managing people, or do you want to just hide in your office and sort of try and run the business through emails? What's your background and experience? What have you been successful at till now? What interests you in running a business? Some other questions to ask yourself. What do you enjoy? What makes you passionate? What are your hobbies, your interests, your pastimes? Take a look at business magazines. What things are you drawn to, and what things do you not care for? A question I love to ask people is, if money were no object, what would you do? Now, I know it's easy to say, well, I'd go lie on a beach somewhere. But assuming that would get boring after a while. I mean, maybe you could do that for a month or 2 or 3 or 6 or 12. But after a while, you'd probably want to find something to occupy your time rather than lying on the beach. And what would that thing look like to you? So would you be interested in working with cats and dogs? Would you be interested in food, vehicles, whatever? I mean, there's all sorts of different types of businesses out there. And if you didn't have to worry about money, what would your hobbies look like? How would you fill your time? That would give you a clue of the things that you are passionate about. So the next question, and this one gets tricky, because people, I talk to a lot of people, and they say, hey, I'm looking for a business. And I say, what are you looking for? And I say, I don't know. I'll know it when I see it. It's sort of like art. I don't know much about art, but I know what I like. The problem with that approach is there are a number of businesses out there for sale, and you can't possibly visit all of them, and you can't kick the tires on 100 or 200 or 300 different businesses. So the more you know what you're looking for, the better you can focus your search on what makes sense. So let's start with some of the basics. How big of a business are you looking for? Like, do you want employees? How many employees? Are you looking for a business with 3 employees or 30 or 300? That dimension dictates a lot of different factors. How many hours a week do you want to work? So are you looking for a business that will also be a full-time job for yourself? Or are you looking for something that will provide passive income? Now, I'm going to suggest to you right now that most smaller businesses do not lend themselves that well to providing passive income to their owners. You could take a business and build it that way, or convert it that way, but that would be something that you would have to do, and you would have to set up, and you would have to hire and train the managers to do the work that the owner used to do. If you want to have a small business that is truly passive income, that would be work that you would do to create that. There are very few businesses out there that are truly passive income to owners, at least not at the below the 5 or 10 million in purchase price range. Maybe above that you can have enough professional managers to run it. But at the small end of the business market, they're typically hands-on owner-operator type businesses. How much income do you want? Now, I know it's easy to say, well, I want 6 figures. I want $250,000 a year. But realistically, what income level do you want to live on? This helps dictate the size of business that you're looking for. Are you going to be the manager or hire someone? So again, similar to the how many hours a week do you want to work? Are you going to be working full time, or are you going to hire someone to run it? And finally, of course, what industry do you favor? So those are the types of questions that are useful for you to look at. So as I conclude the introduction, I just want to touch a bit upon what we do. We help people, as I mentioned at the beginning, buy, sell, value, and improve their business. So specifically, we will assist people in business valuations. If you need a business value because you're looking to buy it, we can assist you with that. We can walk you as a buyer through the whole business buying process. On the business brokerage side, we have a list of businesses that we can help. We can help facilitate a transaction with you. Now, just a note on conflict of interest. If you ask us to value a business that we are representing the seller, we are conflicted out of doing that type of assignment. We can certainly assist you in reviewing that business and like I said, facilitate that transaction, but we cannot do a business valuation, a formal written business valuation on a business where we represent the seller. We also assist with family transitions. So if you're looking to buy a business from your parents, we assist in that. Management transitions, so the same thing. If you're looking to buy a business from the owner. We also assist in business planning, business financing, and strategic planning. Thank you for listening to this webinar. This is part 1 of buying a business, and we're going to move on to part 2 and get more into the nitty-gritty details.